Welcome, everybody, to live coverage of the SFL Season 13 Rookie Draft presented by APM Music. Good evening, everyone, and happy Saturday. I'm Mike Daggs, the SFL Director of Broadcasting, and I will be your host this evening. 3 months of rookie check-ins and the SFL Rookie Showcase are now complete. All of the efforts made by those prospective rookies during that 17 picks is about to take place. Help fill out the rosters of SFL teams still in need of players for Season 13. Who will be selected first? What surprises will take place? We'll find out soon enough as the draft is about to begin. Joining me tonight is an esteemed panel of analysts to help me break down everything that goes down here tonight. First up, joining us from across the pond is the owner of the London Knights, Liam Crowder. Good morning, Liam. I suppose I should have said happy Sunday to you since it's now after midnight in your time zone.
I was going to say good morning, but happy Sunday. So great to be on the panel. It's one of the most exciting days in the SFL calendar. It's the most exciting evening, so I can't wait to get started.
Absolutely. Appreciate you joining us and staying up late for us. Next up, one of the SFL community's favorite play-by-play broadcasters, Michael Turillo. How you doing tonight, Michael?
I'm doing great, and I'm sure all of the draftable players are on the edge of their seats and waiting to see where they'll land and which teams they will represent in the upcoming season.
Absolutely. Up next, joining the broadcast team this past season and doing a fantastic job of it, SFL analyst Dan Mitchell. How's it going tonight, Dan?
Doing great, Mike. Really happy to be here for the Season 13 Rookie Draft. Hope to see what the teams do here with the new rookies, and I'm glad to be here.
All right, fantastic. And last but absolutely not least, one of last season's top rookies. I'm sure you'll be able to speak to what it's like to sit here on draft night and watch the players get selected. SFL play-by-play commentator Rich Pratchard. How's it going tonight, Rich?
Doing great tonight, Mike. Thanks. Interesting to be on this side of it after being on the other side of it last season and sitting in the same chair that some of the rookies are this season. Just kind of wondering where you're going to go.
Getting selected by Oklahoma City last season had to be a fun honor for you. So, what position were you taking? What spot in the draft?
I think it was number 3.
Number 3. So you didn't have to wait too long. So,
no.
Some of the players might have to wait a little bit longer, and I'm sure the anxiety will get worse and worse as they see people getting selected and their name is still up there on the best available board. So, without further ado, let's get this draft started tonight. St. Louis Gladiators are now on the clock. 5 minutes per pick each team will have. We have 17 picks. Draft order tonight will go St. Louis. You'll see it scrolling in the bottom right corner of your screen. It'll be St. Louis, Houston, Oklahoma City, Carolina, Charleston, Atlanta, San Francisco, Tulsa, Vancouver, London. Your London Knights there. Liam, Las Vegas, Queen City, Sioux Falls, followed up by Alaska at pick 14. And then we double back to 3 teams that will actually have 2 picks in this draft. St. Louis, Oklahoma City, and San Francisco, all picking 2 times. So that is how those teams will wrap up. So, Michael, we'll go ahead and start with you. As you know, we have gone through much of the off season. This is one of the final events that takes place in the off season before we can get preseason games going and get the regular season underway. So, has there been any moves so far that you've seen with either players that have moved to other teams or maybe players that aren't on rosters anymore at all? Is there any one big surprise to you that you've seen from any of these teams so far?
Well, I think the big surprise was Tallahassee getting some players back, especially from their arch rivals over in Alaska. So I think the Pride are, even though they're not in this draft tonight, they're well poised to make a good run at the Season 13 championship.
Yeah, absolutely. So, one of the things that was a little bit of a surprise to me is some of the teams that, at this stage coming up into the draft still don't have quarterbacks, listed. And St. Louis is one of those teams, biggest glaring need, if you will, is quarterback for them. And here they are on the clock. So, Liam, taking a look at the players that we have here tonight, is there any one in particular that you think could be that quarterback, or do you think St. Louis might go a different direction?
I think it's there's a pretty clear consensus at number 1. It's probably going to be Sorry, look, I like I'm off to a very good start, as you can probably tell. It is pretty late over here. No, I think St. Louis have got a few different choices. There's almost certainly going to be a quarterback. You could be Kyrie Hayson, Noah Jones, Sudo Nakai. They're all potentially quarterback options. The two rookie showcase quarterbacks as well. They could be options for St. Louis to go with. I think the most important thing for St. Louis is to get some consistency and get someone down who's going to be there for a long time. For us, we had inconsistency at quarterback, and then we opted to go for Rob Roby, and he's now become quite a permanent fixture. So that's the most important thing for them. Whoever it's going to be this time, they picked the quarterback at the last draft. They need to make sure that whoever they get this time is someone who's going to be there for the long.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that consistency, I think, is key. You and I were talking a little bit before the draft, talking about the locker room feel and the fit of the player, and that almost having more of an impact on your selection, being a team owner than the big board might show, or the max silver value, or any rookie showcase bonuses they might have. How much does that weigh in for you? I mean, if you have the ability to draft a max silver player, but there's somebody that's maybe only max copper, and you just think, I just think that player will fit better with the other players that we have. Which is the most important to you?
I think it really depends on the situation in which a team is sitting. So for us in London, we have a lot of players who have already been retained. So we're maybe looking more towards someone as a character pick as opposed to a value pick. When you're a team like St. Louis at the top of the order and you're looking for a franchise piece, you're really going to be focusing on the balance between the two, so both value and character. And then for some teams, it is just going to be a case of what is left available. Are we going to be able to get the value in and get that into the roster to actually get a team out onto the field?
All right, well, without further ado, the pick is in for St. Louis, so let's welcome to the podium the commissioner of the Simulation Football League, Cameron Irvine. I'm ready. I've been waiting to see who St. Louis can be filling in on the roster here. Excited.
I was muted. These things take some time to iron themselves out. Don't shake your head at me, Mike.
Unbelievable.
In honor of Richard Northrup. Good evening, everybody. And welcome to the SFL Season 13 Rookie Draft. I'm good for only one mistake a year, and I've already burned it here on the first night. Turn the calendar. Anyway, super excited. You guys have been holding down the fort, and I'm not going to waste any more time. With the first pick of the SFL Season 13 Rookie Draft, the St. Louis Gladiators select defensive end Moore Rivers with the number 1 pick. Congratulations, Moore Rivers.
Wow. So maybe we've already seen our big surprise. Rich Pratchard, what do you think about that?
That is not the way that I thought that they were going to go. I just like everybody else, I thought they were going to go quarterback or maybe linebacker. They've got a defensive tackle, but shoring up that front line, we've seen it, especially in the last 2 seasons that I've been involved. We've seen how important that defensive line is. Gets the pressure on the quarterback and stopping the run up there in the middle.
Absolutely. I mean, I am surprised, but you bring up an excellent point. I mean, you think about teams like Tallahassee and Alaska and the defensive lines that they have and just how disruptive they are and how much that affects the ability of their opponent's quarterback to actually just have time to even get a pass off. Arguably, maybe defensive end could be a more important position than quarterback. Kind of crazy to think about, but you can't argue with results. Dan, we haven't heard from you yet. I and we're still not going to. I'm going to move back to Mike.
Okay, that's fine.
I'm kidding. So we have the Houston Hyenas now on the clock, but not to shy away from St. Louis quite yet. What is your reaction to defensive end Mauro Rivers to St. Louis, number one?
I think they're just going against the grain to go against the grain, but I think they're really going to try and change up their whole feel. St. Louis, the number one pick, maybe they want to get a whole new feel for their team, so they're going to really put some good stuff on their defense with a strong front line with defensive end. And I mean, they have another pick, so I guess they're banking on that for quarterback unless they have something up their sleeve that they're planning on that no one else knows about. So I'm excited to see what they do with this new defensive end and how they're going to structure their team around this.
And that is an excellent point. I mean, they do have, another pick, so they could certainly select the quarterback there, but there are still, another 13 picks between now and then, so that's a lot of players off the board. And, just looking at the draftable players list, and if anybody doesn't have that list, and you go back to SFL Alerts, there's a link that Cam posted recently announcing the draft, and there's a list of all the draftable players and their value, whether it was max silver, max copper, any showcase bonuses they might have had. And it's all listed in there if you want to follow along with us. But taking a look at that list, Mauro Rivers was about 2/3 of the way down, as far as how everybody was ranked. And, Michael, does it surprise you that, their pick, not necessarily going defensive end, but their pick was somebody that far down the list? Or do you think there's something they see special with Rivers that's going to, really help their team?
Well, I think Dan hit on it a little bit with when he said they may be looking to change up the sort of nature of their team, how it's made up. And I think that they still do need a quarterback, but looking down the list, only one other team that's on this list tonight needs a quarterback, and that's Carolina. So they have another pick, yes, but none of the other teams except for Carolina on here is going to be taking that spot. So they may be saying, let's shore up the defensive side of the ball and then take a quarterback. There's only 2 of them played in the showcase, so they're going to get one of those 2.
That's probably the most pertinent point yet is, there's not really a big need at quarterback. The only other team without a quarterback currently on the roster, as you mentioned, Carolina and also Sioux Falls, but Sioux Falls has a answer at that position that's just not announced quite yet. But so there's most likely only going to be one other quarterback taken. So Liam, 0 for 1 so far on guesses.
So when before we started the broadcast, I said I would make a lot of incorrect predictions, as I have done in the past when I've been broadcasting, whether it be on the podcast or whatever. So I'm good for it, and with my brain fart at the start of the broadcast as well, you're going to see a recurring trend with me going forward. Being a St. Louis, I'm apprehensive about this. If there's a quarterback, you should go out and get him. Clearly, there is something about this guy which has shown Dwayne and Colin. And when you look at St. Louis's build, they are pretty stacked across the board. The only problem really that they have at the moment is maybe a lack of linebackers. So it's a bit of a surprise not to see them go for that option instead. But it could pan out well. It's certainly not what we expected from the first pick of the draft, and I think it's going to set the standard for what is going to be a very exciting and crazy evening.
So moving on to Houston, the pick is almost going to be in here in a minute. So they have a quarterback, halfback, a couple of receivers, a couple of defensive tackles, linebackers, corner, pair of safeties. Rich, what do you think? Where might Houston go here with the second pick?
Well, they've only got 4 contract players on the offensive side of the ball. So I think they're going, honestly, I think they're going wide receiver.
All right, well, let's take a look as the pick is in. Cameron Irvine back at the podium to make the selection.
With the second pick in the Season 13 SFL Rookie Draft, the Houston Hyenas select cornerback Aiden Davis. Congratulations, Aiden.
All right, Aiden Davis, the selection. So I don't think any of our guesses are going to be right at all. It's kind of the theme of the evening. So, Rich, I'll stick with you since we just went over to you. Your reaction to Houston's selection?
Well, they had an open spot at cornerback, and again, we talk about defense. Defense being so important in some of the, especially these championship games, and the strength of the Alaska defense, especially, and seeing how well that served them. Maybe some of these teams are trying to make a move and, like these guys said, change the culture of their team a little bit.
So, Dan, we talked about this before we went on the air, the rookie showcase, and how the rookie showcase went down and what it means. There's a showcase bonus if a player is drafted in the position that they played in the showcase based on their performance in the showcase. Aiden Davis was a corner in the showcase, and he gets a bonus. Can you explain to everybody kind of what that means?
Yeah, so he started out already as a max silver no matter what position he was going to be drafted in, but because he did so well in the showcase, he got the extra point from it, and then he's a max silver +1. So now, because Houston picked him, they have an advantage over other people since he's now even a greater asset to them starting off as a rookie. This is an interesting pick. Maybe they're trying to maximize the fact that he had that bonus, or maybe they just wanted the player as well as they're trying to pair up their cornerbacks.
So Oklahoma City now on the clock, 4.5 minutes to go for the third pick in the draft. Michael Trillo, your reaction to Houston's selection, and where do you see Oklahoma City going?
Well, a quick reaction to Houston. The secondary for Houston is going to be feared by opposing offenses this season because they already have Anthony Wyo and Eddie Gage back there, and now adding in a very good cornerback with Davis, and it's going to be somewhere quarterbacks don't want to throw coming into the season. And now looking at Oklahoma City, I think they're going to go maybe a wide receiver here. They've only got 2 wide receivers. Maybe somewhere on the defensive line because they only have 1 defensive tackle signed to a contract currently.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things, we talked about surprises. One of the things looking at these, the rosters that we currently have so far, at least by the teams that are drafting, not necessarily the teams that are full, because we have, some teams that aren't drafting tonight. And, Liam, maybe you can talk a little bit about, why we only have 14 different teams picking, and then, obviously 3 of those teams picking twice. But we have 21 teams in the league, only 14 are selecting tonight. None of those teams that are selecting right now have special teamers. There's no kickers or punters signed, so we'll see if we have any of them drafted tonight. But can you kind of explain for those who might not know why only 14 teams are selected?
Well, it comes down to certain teams re-signing all of their players or getting signees on board to fill out their roster. Houston picked up that cornerback and they filled out their roster, their 12-man roster now. For me, Houston roster is a defensive slanted. I would have liked to have seen them maybe go for a tight end, but they've picked up the additional cornerback, which is not a bad thing. They are certainly going to be looking to focus on the defensive side of the ball. Some teams, just maybe had a bit of difficulty with some players departing. We saw last season with Queen City, a dynasty essentially in Queen City having trouble with maybe some of the recruitment side of things. But they're a team with a lot of prestige and very well renowned. So there's no real issue with them as a franchise. It's just a case of maybe they do want to go to the draft and utilise some of the rookie prospects, someone with maybe a bit less of a background in the league, to try and find some hidden talent. We're coming up to OKC, and they have got a few different areas of need. I think they will probably go for the defensive side of the ball, wherever it be someone in a defensive back or linebacker. I think they may focus on the defensive line though. No defensive lineman at the moment, so quite possibly someone on that.
Well, their roster is currently split with 5 offensive star players and 5 defensive star players. The pick is in. Let's see which way they go. Cameron Irvine to make the selection.
All of SFL Nation out there, who on the panel is checked out the SFL magazine that was just released. That was awesome. I'm not all the way through it yet, but that was excellent.
I haven't had a chance to see it yet, but I saw it pop up earlier today as I was getting ready for the draft. So that's my bedtime reading.
Yeah, it's worth a look. Jeremy Vega, great job, and all those who contribute to it as well. Show them some support and take a look at all that content. It's really awesome stuff. With that, we get to the third pick. With the third pick in the SFL Season 13 Rookie Draft, the Oklahoma City Renegades select fullback DJ Moses II. Congratulations, DJ, and congratulations, Oklahoma City.
All right. Fullback DJ Moses II joins Oklahoma City. They already have a halfback on the roster and now a fullback on the roster to join him in DJ Moses II. DJ Moses actually played tight end during the rookie showcase. But yeah, hey, tight ends are blockers too, and so are fullbacks. And gosh darn it, we can carry the ball. We're an all-purpose people. So, Michael Chirillo, your reaction to Oklahoma City's selection? Do you think they're trying to maybe mimic another team in the league that has a similar setup?
Well, maybe, and a team with a similar setup happens to have the last 3 titles, so we'll see how that works out for Oklahoma City. I do like this pick, actually, as he was a max silver contract coming out of the rookie showcase. And once Mike, you always find a way to get tight ends into this.
Oh, absolutely. Tight ends are people too, man.
But yeah, it's going to be a devastating backfield with the Renegades this season, and I think their offense is going to do some great things.
So, Rich, I was going to go back to Liam and just make fun of him because once again he was wrong, but we'll hold off. We'll hold off on that. Rich Pratchett, Oklahoma City, near and dear to your heart, I'm sure. They go fullback. What do you think about that? Wide receiver with their third pick last time around, and now fullback.
Well, it looks like they're changing a little bit of the way they're going to call plays. I know they have a new offensive coordinator in Oklahoma City, so they are changing that game plan a little bit. Teams aren't going to see the same Oklahoma City that they've seen in the past, and hopefully it's successful for them. It'd be good to see them get some success, that's for sure.
Carolina Skyhawks now on the clock, and we talked about this a little earlier on. St. Louis with that apparently not so glaring need at quarterback as they went defensive end, but Carolina still does have that need at quarterback. And Dan, what do you think about that? If you're the guy making the decision in Carolina and you see St. Louis, 3 picks ahead of you, and you're thinking, well, I guess we'll just get whatever quarterback's left. Now you have your choice. Whoever you want at quarterback is still there. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think this really maybe have thrown Carolina off a bit. They were expecting the other quarterback, I guess, as you would say it, but instead they have the pick of who they want. It's I think a big surprise for them. And I think if I was them, I would definitely go maybe Noah Jones, just because he has the bonus, and he's got the max silver, he's got stats you want, but it's also, as Liam was talking about earlier, the person. If your team connects with him, how they go. So I definitely think they're gonna go quarterback, as it's their only pick and it's their necessary position. I'm excited to see how they do it and how it structures their future offense.
Yeah, Carolina has 10 players signed right now. They have somebody lined up to sign after the draft, depending on how the draft goes, to help fill out that roster. So everybody knows, too, just the way that every single roster is kind of laid out right now, it looks like after the draft, all the pieces are going to fall into place pretty quick, and we are going to have a full league. It's not going to take too long before the entire league is filled up, getting the rosters locked, preseason games scheduled. Season 13 is going to get underway, and me and all these broadcasters can get back to work, and Liam, you can go back to doing whatever it is you do over there in England. So to find out who the pick is not going to be, we'll turn it back over to Liam to make a guess who the pick is going to be. So what do you think, Liam? Which way is Carolina going to go?
I had to be the character analyst that everybody can make fun of this evening. And just that, I've got a window right here which I've just opened so I can jump out and everybody
That's
get
not
the
good.
evening.
Well, now I got guilt.
People are saying Liam doesn't like that pick. It's not that I actually like it. I really like the fullback because Lasker has shown just how effective the fullback can be. I just think it's a bit of an odd when you are lacking on the defensive line. They have probably as many pieces as I, as an offensive-minded coach, would put on your offense. I think the one quarterback, one running back, one fullback, 2 wide receivers, and 1 tight end is a really good offensive setup in the SFL. And the offenses in this league are dynamic, and if OKC can capture the essence of what makes teams like Alaska and Dallas so strong offensive, then they will definitely have a good season. I think that it's just with the lack of the lack of players on the defensive line, I would have thought they would go for there. With Carolina, as you said before, they need a quarterback. If I say they're going to pick a quarterback, they won't.
maybe they'll go punter here. What do you think? You know, they could,
yeah.
Everybody. I mean, punters are people too. Not like tight ends, but they are people too.
Yeah. Just to run through, so Carolina have got halfback and 2 wide receivers on their offense currently, and the rest of their players are on the defense. So they've got players across the board on defense. So I think almost certainly this would be an offensive pick. It would probably, I would say that a quarterback, the wild card pick would be a tight end, which is a very good pick. I think tight end is a very undervalued position in the league. But that probably means that they are now going to draft a kicker. So.
Well, you know, you never can have too many kickers, I guess. But man, 19 seconds left, so I think you might have been right. It threw them off a little bit when no quarterback was taken, because they are taking every last second that they can to make this pick. But you know, you talked to Liam about their defensive side of the ball. They currently have 4 gold players on their roster, and 3 of those golds are all on the defense. So, you know, that definitely shows that right now they are very heavily defensive minded, which, you know, defense, you know, what's the old saying? Defense wins championships, but you really do need that quarterback to be able, I mean, somebody's got to throw the ball. The kicker can't. Well, I guess the kicker could do it, but
yeah. It's one of the interesting dynamics that's come into play in the league ever since progression was introduced properly, and since team building has become a more important part. You know, Carolina maybe are having to go a bit undervalued on the offense because they have so many expensive pieces on defense. It will be interesting to see who they take it, even if I'm.
Without further ado, Cameron Irvine is returning to the podium to announce Carolina's selection.
With the 4th pick in the Season 13 SFL Rookie Draft, the Carolina Skyhawks have selected quarterback Sully Richardson. Congratulations, Sully and Carolina.
All right, Sully Richardson is the selection. Congratulations to Liam Crowder for being right for the first time tonight. You close that window, buddy. Don't jump out quite yet. We'll stick right with you, Liam. Your reaction to Sully Richardson being the selection for Carolina?
Probably not the person we would have expected. You know, Sully Richardson was listed down as a defensive tackle and a linebacker. He was certainly someone we had our eye on if we didn't necessarily expect him to fall to us. But, you know, he is, as I mentioned before, one of these character picks. You know, very involved, very heavily engaged with everything that's going on, won the highest chat rank. So I do like the pick here by Carolina. And with the way that the draft is formatted, of course, they can make him a quarterback. They're not losing anything. They maybe lose a couple of points in terms of him not being drafted at his showcase position. But I really like this pick. Sully's a great guy. I think this is probably one of the best picks of the draft so far.
You hear that, everybody? Liam liked a pick. He liked it. He agreed with it almost all the way. Not completely, but almost. So, although I think he might be a little upset that his maybe a player that he had his eye on might have been taken. But we won't ask you to reveal too much about London's plans. Don't worry, I'll steer away from those sorts of questions.
It's
So
okay.
the Charleston Predators, the one of the newly relocated teams in the league, is now on the clock. A little under 4 minutes to go there for Charleston as they make their first selection. So, Rich Pratchard, will jump back over to you. So with Sully Richardson being the pick, and we look at the players that are still left available, Noah Johns kind of jumps out at me with that Max Silver 1.5 point showcase bonus at quarterback. Are you surprised not only that Carolina did not take him, and do you think that potentially St. Louis is now hoping that he actually drops and is still available down at pick 15?
I'm not shocked that that Sully Richardson was chosen as the quarterback spot there instead of Noah Johns, just because, like Liam said, his chat rank, he never missed a check-in. He was active, and that's a big value to a team. You want to make sure that when you pick somebody up, they're going to stick around and they're going to be active in the locker room and make sure they turn in their progressions and all that. But yeah, I'm sure that St. Louis is hoping that Noah Johns falls down farther in the draft. Or there's a couple other guys. Kyrie Hasen. He's listed quarterback as his second or as his primary position, and he's a Max Silver also. So he's sitting out there waiting for St. Louis as well.
All right, Dan Mitchell, taking a look at Charleston's roster here. Quarterback, halfback, a couple of receivers, a beloved tight end. Can never go wrong there. Couple of linebackers. Looks like a corner and a safety. Looks like they could use a little bit more help on defense, maybe. The defensive line has absolutely nobody, only one corner and safety. Do you think this is a defensive selection coming up, or do they add to an already somewhat stacked offense?
I personally think this would be a defensive selection. I mean, they came from before they were the Predators. They had a very stacked defense. So coming now, when they have lightened it up, I think if they add something maybe such as a Caledon Holly or Terran Davis, just coming out and stacking their defense, either probably in the front, so you got a good defensive tackle, defensive end coming out. I think they really need it, as their offense is, I don't want to say set in stone, but it's in a good place right now, and they have a good amount of point support to it as well. So I'm hoping for a defensive pick for the Charleston Predators.
Michael Truillo, you've been left alone on your own here for a little bit, so we'll pick on you so that you can talk again and everybody can hear that sweet voice that they've been missing this whole offseason, waiting for you to get back in the booth. I know you've been chomping at the bit to get back in the booth too. So the Predators, we take a look at their roster. They currently only have 2 gold players signed, and it's a quarterback and a linebacker. Their total cap space is actually one of the lowest. I've been trying to look and count, and I think it's like the 3rd or 4th lowest. So looks like they're going to be getting a good pick here, and we'll put a hold on that real quick as the pick is in, and we'll turn it right back over to you once this selection is announced for your reaction. So Cameron Irvine, take it away.
With the 5th pick in the Season 13 SFL Rookie Draft, the Charleston Predators select cornerback Caledon Holly. Congratulations, Caledon and Charleston.
Caledon Holly is the selection at cornerback for Charleston. Atlanta Swarm is now on the clock. Michael Truillo, your reaction to Caledon Holly?
Yeah, I really like this pick by Charleston. We mentioned that they could have gone defensive line because they don't have any real star power down there as of yet, but they do still have a couple of re-signings and picks to be announced after the draft, so maybe they're going to look that way later. But this is a great pick. They solidify their cornerback position, and Caledon Holly, Max Silver gets the bonus from the showcase. He's going to get to play the position he wanted as his primary. This is a good, solid pick all around for both parties.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And, the point that I was making right as that pick was coming in, about their total cap space. They have the room to sign a very high-valued rookie. So to get that Max Silver minus 0.5, but then to get that 2.5 bonus jump because of the rookie showcase. That's really going to give them a very good player and help round out their defense. Liam, what is your reaction to the pick? You liked one pick. Do you like two picks back to back? What do you think?
Yeah, I think it's a nice pick. I'm slightly cooler on it because they've already got a cornerback. I personally like having two cornerbacks on the team. At least have one, of course, unless you're Queen City. But the lack of defensive linemen, though, is a bit of a concern. As Mike pointed out, or Michael, it could be a case of they're going to pick someone up after the draft for the defensive line. So that's perfectly fine. The actual pick itself is a very nice player. So there's no problems here. I think we're looking for a big franchise piece to take into the new town that they're going to. They've got another team in Carolina that they're competing with in the Skyhawks. So this is a good pick.
Yeah, it really is. And Rich Pratchard will bounce back over your way. Charleston's pick, Atlanta's pick coming up. What are your thoughts on one or the other or both? What do you think?
I agree with you guys. I really like that pick. Getting the bonus and getting another cornerback in there. I think that's going to serve Charleston very well. A great pick. And then as far as Atlanta coming up, it looks like their offense is pretty set, unless they want to add, a fourth receiver piece or second back like Oklahoma City did. But there's some holes in their defense that could be filled here. A defensive lineman, particularly there. They've got a defensive tackle, but they could put a defensive end in there. They've kind of got it spread out, so I'm not sure which direction Atlanta's going to go at this point, but I wouldn't be surprised to see another defensive player there.
And obviously wide receiver is a position that's important to you, much like tight end is to me. But taking a look down the list here, there's only two teams right now that are drafting players that actually have three receivers on their roster. That's Tulsa and Alaska. And for both of them, for shame, neither one of them has a tight end. But to each their own, I guess. But with only two receivers on most of these rosters, are you expecting to see a receiver get selected relatively soon? Is there a team coming up, not even necessarily the one on the clock, but another team coming up that you think might have their eye on a receiver? There's a couple of Max Silver receivers. Actually, it looks like 3 Max Silver receivers that have rookie showcase bonuses too. So it's a position that has some depth and could really add some value to a team. What do you think?
Yeah, I think you'll see some wide receivers go in the draft. But again, it's Vancouver could go wide receiver with the quarterback at some point. Although they're needing a halfback also or a running back also. So it just depends on what's available at that point. You've got a bunch of teams are utilizing that tight end, and I know that makes you happy. Dags, but but a lot more tight ends now than in the receiver, and adding that into another tight end. San Francisco, I could see maybe them going a wide receiver here with the next pick because they do not have that tight end.
Right.
But I know defense. It seems to be a little more defensive minded this season on the draft here.
So I'm kind of trying to pay attention to the chat too. We have last I checked, we had over 100 people with us. Looks like we're at 98 right now. So a couple people didn't like Liam and they left. We can't keep them all. I mean, we do what we can, but he offended somebody, I guess. But 98 people with us, so I'm trying to keep an eye on the chat too. But I'm totally thrown off right now, Dan. Jeremy Vega says, "This has been amazing as always. Can we have a season 10 draft, please?" How are we supposed to go back in time and have a season 10 draft?
Wow.
I don't think that's how time works. Jeremy.
No.
I literally have right here a time machine.
We also got a clown car inside now.
I can't fit in it though, so I don't. I'll put that off to the side. A whole slew of props here, just in case we need them. I'm surprised that my DeLorean actually was somehow applicable in this draft, but it was. So Dan, Atlanta is on the clock. They have 11 players under contract. This will fill out their roster. Currently, 5 of them are on offense, it looks like, and 6 are on defense. So are they going to go 6 and 6? Or are they going to go a little bit more defensive-minded? What do you think?
Personally, I think defensive-minded, but as the clock's coming up, I sort of want them to throw off the current trend and grab like a third wide receiver and just throw everything off. But that's just my own personal one, so I don't want to throw that into the draft itself, but I would like to see maybe take a defensive end and balance out their defense a bit.
Yeah, so far not a lot of defensive ends, on teams. St. Louis didn't have a defensive end to start the draft. Obviously, they do now with the first selection of Maurer Rivers. But no team has a defensive end up until this point, so maybe we see another defensive end get added. You're taking a look at the next couple of teams, San Francisco and Tulsa. They do have a defensive end already on their roster, so it will be interesting to see which direction they go. So Atlanta has run out of time, so hopefully that pick is coming in here relatively soon. And Liam, I'm going to toss it back over to you just because I want you to stay awake. You're starting to look a little sleepy, buddy. What are we rolling up on? Gosh, almost 1 a.m. now? Yikes.
Well, people are saying that apparently the people who have left have already gone to do the window jump. So I do have to say, just in case anybody has decided to do that, I did not encourage anybody to do that. So for me, Atlanta, I think Dan mentioned about throwing a curveball out with the third wide receiver. From a practical standpoint, chuck a bit of knowledge in here in terms of the game planning side of things on offense. Third wide receiver isn't necessarily going to get the same number of touches as maybe a number 1 tight end does. So that's why certainly in London we've gone with quarterback, running back, a couple of wide receivers and picked up a tight end in Trevor Farrell. So I'd be expecting them to go to the defensive side of the ball. They have a defensive tackle. They have a linebacker. They have a linebacker, a cornerback, free safety, and a strong safety. I'd maybe, if I was in their situation, I'd go for the second cornerback. You can get away with 1 quarterback or none if your name is Eric Barkley. But yeah, I think personally I'd go with the cornerback here if they actually get the picking, because we're still waiting to see the pick come in. So
Atlanta has forfeited their pick. They dropped to 17th. San Francisco is up next at number 7.
All right, so there you go. Atlanta has dropped down and totally thrown off my cool spreadsheet that I made to help us keep track of what's going on. So
that's a first. That's the first time that's ever happened in SFL history.
Well, and it happened here tonight. So wow, interesting to see that take place. But hey, without further ado, San Francisco is now on the clock, and they will get pick number 6 in the draft. And Liam, we'll stick right with you and see what you think here. San Francisco has a quarterback, a pair of receivers, and that's it so far on offense. So kind of looking like this is going to be an offensive selection. Do you think they might add a halfback? Maybe would probably be the most likely thing. But could add a third receiver, maybe a tight end. Where are you thinking they'll go? Or do you think they'll go defense?
I think they'll go with the running back. I mean, the guys in London, when we were preparing for the draft last season, there were a few different options we could go at running back, and ultimately we got the one guy that we really wanted, who blew us away in Reggie Streeter. And we saw just how dynamic he was. And running back is such an important position in this league. The way that running back rules have changed, bringing in finesse, power, and balanced running backs as hierarchies. It's going to be interesting to see if San Francisco does go in that direction, how they will build their running back out. I think the problem that San Francisco have encountered, which they are fortunate in the sense that no other running backs have been picked so far, is that the running back talent pool is surprisingly thin. So you are probably going to see a case of, like we saw with Sully Richardson, a player who didn't necessarily want to be a running back up until this point has been convinced to switch from their showcase position to go to running back. Of all the positions you could ask for, of course, that's probably one of the best. Maybe quarterback is the only one that's more valuable. So that would be the pick for me. San Francisco, I think they get their franchise running back, and they get someone they can build with the future.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you talk about the player on the team other than the quarterback that might actually touch the ball the most. It's probably the halfback. Getting usually half of the offensive snaps. Just carrying the ball and used in the passing game quite a bit as well. I know you do that quite efficiently in London, getting your running back involved in the passing game. And not having one on the roster yet, seems like that might be the way they will go. Michael Trujillo, I will pass it back to you. What do you think? Do you think they're going to go halfback? And if so, who? And if not, what do you think they're going to do?
I mean, I think we're all about to are being set up to have egg on our face a little bit, just like the number one pick, because I'm also think they're going to go with a running back. It's the glaring hole in their offensive system, and I think I'm going to go one further and give you a name that I think they're going to go with. I think they're going to go with Diesel Dawson, who was the running back in the rookie showcase, and I really liked what I saw out of him. If they draft him at running back, he will be a max silver minus 0.5, so not a max contract for a rookie, but I think still Dawson gets my nod.
All right, so Diesel Dawson, Trillo's guess. I don't know if we want to get dangerous and start making guesses on all the players left. Talk about setting us up for egg on our face. Oh boy, I was just saying halfback in general. You're calling the specific guy. So just I see a few people in the chat saying, so what just happened? And basically, if the team doesn't get their pick in within those 5 minutes, and it's not necessarily based on the timer on the screen. So if you see somebody else's timer run to 0, don't panic and think that they forfeited their selection. It's when that pick gets sent into Cam. Sometimes the graphics are a little bit delayed, as there's a lot going on right now in league headquarters, and Cam has his hands full. But basically, if you don't get your pick made, then you get bumped down to the bottom, and everybody else slides up a spot. So that's why San Francisco is taking over that 6th pick, and we'll see which way they end up going as the timer ticks away. So, and Cam correcting me on the fly here in the chat. So there is technically no 6th pick. It goes to nobody. This is the 7th pick for simplicity's sake. After I went and renumbered my whole spreadsheet, time to renumber it again. So, the Rich Brashard, we talked about how maybe this could be a spot where the first receiver gets taken, but halfback, maybe a little bit more of a glaring need. 15 seconds to go here on the clock. What do you think San Francisco is going to do?
I think you're right, and I like Trillo's pick though. If you look at their cap space, they've only got about 200 points of cap space left, and they've got 3 players to sign.
Right.
So a lower level, lower silver or a high copper. That may be where they're going, either with a halfback or a wide receiver. There's a lot of wide receiver guys out there that, well, actually, there's not. As I look down at my list, there's really not any there's about one. I think there's one that's listed here that's below a max silver at this point. But yeah, I think it's going to be a halfback or a wide receiver, and I like the Diesel Dawson pick.
So the timer has once again struck 0, but in this case, I think we might have a selection coming in soon. Seeing a little activity out of the league office, but maybe I was imagining.
Couldn't possibly be 2 straight forfeited picks. I'd be absolutely shocked if that was the case.
Listen, if there is, then I think Liam might actually jump out that window. So. And then we'd only have 3 analysts, and that would just throw off the entire night. So, other than your death, I mean, your imminent death, that's what's important, Liam, is that we would miss you, permanently. So
Thank
please don't jump out the window. This is a live broadcast. This is family programming, and now there's over 100 people again. So
what we need to wait for is Rich to turn around and suddenly disappear.
yeah,
He's already done it a few times so far. So
yeah. Rich was vanishing during our pre-draft little warm-up session. I didn't know if he had just like rolled out of the room or what was going. Hey, that's the sort of thing that happens during these live shows. You never know quite what's going to take place, and it's always an adventure. So it looks like we might have a pick coming up here soon. So, and we do indeed. So, without further ado, San Francisco has made their selection. Cameron Irvine coming back to the podium to announce it.
Oh, it's been a stressful 10 minutes here at headquarters.
Welcome back, Cam.
I've never dealt with that before, so I had to. To be fair, Mike, I announced it. You just said what I announced, and then I was like, no, that's gonna mix everything up. So we're gonna do it this way. So my bad. But anyway, back to business. With the 7th pick of the SFL Season 13 Rookie Draft, the San Francisco Sharks select cornerback Sim Franco Jr. Congratulations, Sim in San Francisco.
Yes, congratulations, San Francisco and Sim Franco Jr. I didn't mean to cut you off, Cam, but I guess, Trillo, you called it. That egg on our face was coming. We really should just leave it to Liam to be wrong instead of all of us. That way there's only one scapegoat at the end of the night. But Sim Franco Jr. is the selection at cornerback. Tulsa now on the clock. So Sim Franco Jr. played wide receiver in the rookie showcase and actually had a substantial bonus if he was selected as a wide receiver, but selected here as a cornerback. What do you think about that pick?
Well, I mean, it wasn't what we were expecting, yes, but I still do like it. Sim Franco Jr. He's still got the Max Silver contract, and he did list a cornerback as one of the positions that he most wanted to play. So he's still getting to go onto the field at a position that he wanted to play. And I think that Rich hit on it a little bit before the pick was announced, that they don't have all the cap space in the world to play with tonight, and they have 2 picks to make. So maybe they're going to go a little bit conservative with their second pick, or it allows them to pick up a running back all the way at the bottom of the draft.
Yeah, that's true. I keep forgetting about those 3 teams down at the bottom: St. Louis, Oklahoma City, and San Francisco, all having 2 picks in this draft, kind of throwing off the system. So now we have Tulsa on the clock. Dan Mitchell, what do you think about Sim Franco Jr. and where are you seeing Tulsa going?
I mean, we all got eggs on our face with San Francisco with that last pick, but I guess they really are throwing out that running back, whatever they can get at the end of the draft with their second pick, which was supposed to be last, but then we had the little fiasco with Atlanta. But I guess they're trying to grab what they can at the end. And then with Tulsa, I think they're going to grab something for the front of their defense. I think they're going to grab something for a defensive tackle, defensive end, something up there to try and strengthen their defense, because it really looks like that they have their offense set in stone, unless they want to make you really happy, Mike, with a tight end on top of all of everything they already have. Besides that, though, I think this should definitely be a defensive pick, but nothing's been going our way so far, so who's us to say?
Who knows? We don't know anything. So Jeremy Vega wants to know if we can pause the draft to allow him time to go get a beer. No. Moving on from that, so
I'm disappointed that you're not prepared.
Yeah, right. Come on, man. Did you not know the draft was now? How did you not stay ready? Especially because he's in Colorado, and I don't think he actually means he's going to get a beer. I think he's going to go grab something else that's legal there, but we won't talk about that here on the air. So Tulsa with about 2.5 minutes to go here before their pick will be announced. So just taking a look at their roster, they have their gold quarterback, but no other gold players at all. Everybody else is silver and bronze. This will be the pick that completes their 12-person roster. They have a quarterback, halfback. We mentioned earlier 3 receivers. Rich, do you think this team's heavily loaded at receiver? Do you think they might add that tight end? Do you think they'd surprise everybody and go fullback like Oklahoma City did, or you seeing defense here, maybe even special teams?
No, I'm seeing defense here. I'm seeing either up front or at linebacker, either defensive end, defensive tackle, or linebacker. I think on the offensive side of the ball, they're pretty set, but they do have some holes on the defensive side of the ball. I think they need to fill.
Yeah, I agree. Dan, I see you nodding your head. So, is there a player in particular that you see on the list? I mean, are we going to roll the dice and have that potential egg again and call out a player's name, or do you not even dare?
I mean, if he's still around, I would definitely say the number 1 pick, but we lost him first round, so with that, I think it's up in the air, and I'm not going to throw that egg in my face and let it land on me.
How about you, Torello? Are you willing to take another stab at the pick? You totally missed the last time around, but
and I think I'm gonna pass on this one. This one's a little bit more wide open because there's a couple of positions they could go for. I do agree with Rich though, either up front or at linebacker. I think I'm trending a little bit more towards thinking about they're gonna take a defensive tackle.
Interesting. All right, so a man who's never afraid to be wrong, Liam Crowder. I know you'll make a pick here for us. What do you think?
I do just want to say that looking back at some of Dwayne's comments, I'm pretty sure he just made that pick so I would be wrong. So in fact, St. Louis are going to have a take back and pick a quarterback now. But for me, Tulsa are pretty much set everywhere. I mean, I mentioned before about the third wide receiver and how they may be a bit limited in getting him the touches that he wants. They could go with a tight end, which would be a good piece. Special teams is not a complete... It's an outside chance here. And with the value that they have available, it's maybe... It's not really enough to kind of spend on for a kicker or a punter. But I think it'll probably be a defensive play. I think the offense is set, but we'll see who it is.
We will see right now as the pick is in for Tulsa, and Cameron Irvine back at the podium to make the pick.
So I've got a lot going on, but I'm wondering, I'm trying to keep track at home. Who has done the best on predicting selections?
Oh, no, literally no. We've been 100% consistently wrong.
Oh, that's always what you like to hear as a commissioner out of your analyst.
I have gotten every single one right.
That's awesome. With the 8th pick in the SFL Season 13 Rookie Draft, the Tulsa Desperados select tight end Anthony Mosley. Congratulations, Anthony and Tulsa.
All right, the first tight end is selected. Congratulations, Anthony Mosley, on being drafted to an elite group of players at tight end. And I am totally biased, so I better just turn this over to anybody.
I called that.
I said it'd make Mike happy and add to the offense. I gotta say.
So how about that, Liam? You say you called it, but I don't know about that nonsense. But,
I wasn't completely wrong. I said tight end would be the place I would go to if it was an offensive pick, and I think Tulsa, it's their commitment to their passing game. We saw the passing game blossom with Ashley Jackson in the back, and I think they're simply giving her more weapons to use. So this is a really good pick. I have always been a big advocate for the tight end. We've coaches like T-Pat come out and say about how the tight end is underutilized. So I think this is a really good pick. That will finish them up, I think, with their roster. So
it does.
It's also looking like an interesting team going into season 30.
So, Rich, we talked about 3 receivers and adding a tight end on. Are you surprised to see that actually happened? I think we were kind of talking about it as a joke, but
Yeah, I'm surprised, but not surprised. With a quarterback like Ashley Jackson, she can throw the ball, and giving her all of those weapons and all those tools to work with, that's a pretty smart move for Tulsa. I think it'll pay off for them.
So 7 players selected already, 10 still left on the board. Everybody selected so far has been that max silver level, only 2 of which have been drafted in their position that they played in the rookie showcase to take advantage of that bonus. Liam, we talked about character being a huge thing, especially for London. Every team might not look at it the same way. They might not really care if the person ever really participates much at all with the team, as long as they get their bits cheered and their progression done, and they might not ever care to hear from them at all, as long as they're doing that. Are you surprised that more teams aren't necessarily taking advantage of that rookie showcase bonus, or do you think more teams might be kind of more along the lines of what London's doing and specifically looking for that character player and somebody that's going to be a good fit and they know is going to stick around and be there for the team?
I think it's really a matter of you need a convergence between the players that are available and the players that you need for your build. So a team like Tulsa, for example, they are specifically looking for a tight end there, because what they want to do this season is they want to have a really stacked receiving corps. So if they find someone who not only is willing to take on that particular position, even if maybe in the showcase they didn't necessarily want to do that, that really helps them have the flexibility to do what they need to do and recruit for where they need to recruit. I think this draft really comes at quite an interesting time in the league. There's maybe not necessarily as many draft eligible players as we have had in drafts past. We had the real marathon season 11 draft, I believe it was, where I was up until 4 o'clock in the morning, and I tell you what, that window, I probably would have jumped out of it by the end of it because I was so tired. So, it's really going to be interesting to see how some teams adapt in their recruitment policies going forward, and we may see, differing attitudes on the draft going forward and differing attitudes towards free agency. So.
All right, well, the pick is in, and looks like we lost Michael Truillo briefly, but there he is. He's back. So the pick is in for Vancouver. We haven't talked about them at all. Andy Hamilton, I guess, moving pretty quick to get that selection done. They still have 2.5 minutes to go on the clock. So I guess without further ado, we'll get that pick announced, and we'll talk about Vancouver.
Turillo, you're on thin ice. I see you over there.
It wasn't me.
With the 9th pick in the SFL Season 13 Rookie Draft, the Vancouver Legion select running back Pseudo Nakai. Congratulations, Pseudo and Vancouver. London will pick 19th so that he stays up longer. Just kidding. 10th.
Whoa,
He's up next.
hang on.
All right, Pseudo Nakai, the selection for Vancouver at running back, and max silver value -3. That will bring Vancouver's roster now to 10 players. They still have 2 spots open. One will be a free agent signing that has not been announced yet, and a rookie player that will also be signed to a position that has not been announced yet. So a lot going on there for Vancouver still, now that they've made their selection of Pseudo Nakai. So Michael, now that you're here again, why don't you talk about Pseudo Nakai and what you think about this pick before you randomly disappear and throw off our video?
I'm not going to disappear again. But yeah, Pseudo Nakai. Vancouver needed a running back, plain and simple, and they went out and got one, and I think that they would have been pleasantly surprised that San Francisco did not draft a running back above them. So I think that's why Andy was like, hey, we got this pick in real fast because our guy wasn't drafted already. Pseudo Nakai, one of the positions that he wanted to play was fullback. Running back is not too far away from that. It's a good pick, and I think Pseudo Nakai will be a good fit for that backfield alongside Tom Pepper.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you're right. I think Andy probably saw that, he had that ability to go ahead and take the running back that he wanted, that he thought might be gone, and Pseudo Nakai was that pick. Dan, what's your reaction to Vancouver's selection? Did you expect them to go running back? Did you think they might go a different direction? I mean, that hole at running back was kind of one that you thought for sure might need to be filled, but what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I don't think there's much of a surprise with Vancouver's pick. As soon as Pseudo Nakai was still open, I think at this 9th pick, Andy knew exactly what he had to do, and he picked him up immediately. It really just fleshes out all of Vancouver's offense, giving them that good ground game option. And I think they're going to be a real well-off team, hopefully, this season with a fully stacked offense.
Yeah, absolutely. Vancouver's always one of those teams that, as a broadcaster, I just absolutely love calling their games. It doesn't. I talked about it during the schedule release show. For those of you that watched it, of course, I also said that Alaska might go 0-6. So, listen, anything I said during that schedule release show, you probably should just ignore. But anyway, Vancouver, it's always a team that puts up a fight. Doesn't matter who their opponent is. Pseudo Nakai being able to join that roster and learn from the other players that are there. It's going to be a great addition to the Vancouver Legion, and it does round off their offense nicely. As they now have their quarterback, halfback, pair of receivers, tight end. That's really all that was important there, is that they have a tight end. One thing that's bothering me right now is I'm scrolling back through the chat. There's so much going on. It's kind of hard to pay attention to everything. But scrolling back through the chat, and Max Paul, our man Mighty RX, Max Paul points out that I'm wearing Alaska colors, and I'm speechless at the moment because it's totally throwing me off, because I see myself on the screen and I see the colors now, and now I can't unsee it. Go Alaska.
It's like when someone tells you that you're breathing, like, without thinking about it.
Like, oh yeah. So the pick's coming fast and furious now, as the pick for London is in. So Liam, we'll get your thoughts immediately after this pick is announced. London being your team and all, I kind of was trying to steer away from asking anything while they were on the clock, because I didn't want you to have to reveal any secrets. But Cameron Irvine, you're back. Make London's selection public.
Shout outs to Eddie Gage, Crew Knox, Denver Nightwings, DB the King 7, Never Satisfied 123, Jay Wowza, Warhammer 62, all in there here just very recently. Thanks everybody for being here tonight for the SFL Draft. With the 10th pick in the SFL Season 13 Rookie Draft, the London Knights select outside linebacker Darian Bowles. Congratulations, Darian and London.
All right. Liam showing off his blacked out t-shirt. We're all here in button-up shirts, ties. Liam's sitting over there sporting the t-shirt. But hey, we're not here to judge you on style, buddy. You got the London shirt. You're representing your team. It's all good. So there's your selection, Darian Bowles. Tell us about him.
Yeah, so Darian played in the showcase. He's got a bit of a background in terms of his knowledge of the league, so that was something that we were quite happy with. There are a few different options that we were looking at. It's been an interesting process with maybe not necessarily having as many eligible draftees as mentioned before. But Darian was a clear standout. He got mocked to us, earlier in the process, and it was a case of convergence between a position that we needed, getting the value, and also the character of the person. Darian's been quite open in talking to us, discussing things. So, we're happy with the pick, and it also fills out our build. We wanted to get the second linebacker like we did last season. We're on the edge of, I think, getting into the playoffs. I mean, we came as close as you possibly could without actually doing it. So We're just looking to take that next step, and hopefully Darian is the piece that we need to complete that. So,
And that darn near rounds out your entire roster. I think you have one player left to sign that hasn't been announced yet, and that'll finish up your team's roster. Let's see, who have I not picked on in a while? Who's been sitting there quiet the longest? I feel like it's been Rich. Have I been ignoring you, Rich?
Yeah, well, you do usually, so it's
I try my best. I mean, I let you on the broadcast team, and that's a decision I can't take back, I guess.
Yeah,
but this is what it is now. But so what do you think about London's selection? And just ignore the fact that Liam is staring at you as you talk about his team.
No, I like. That's actually where I would have. I'd say this after the fact, but that's actually where I would have guessed they were going to go with the linebacker on the defensive side of the ball at least. No, that's a good pick. You get that 0.5 bonus, so he ends up being Max Silver.
Yeah, evens right back out. Yep.
Right, and just a good pick.
So Michael Trullo, Las Vegas Fury are clock, a team with what you could say has the most needs out of anybody right now. A team that obviously did quite well last season, but right now only has 7 players signed to their roster. Now they still have 3 players from last season that they have left to re-sign, so theoretically they have 10, but right now they only have a quarterback, halfback, a couple of receivers, a tight end, and a defensive tackle and safety on the roster. So offense pretty well rounded out, but the defense, there's only 2 guys right now. So what do you think they might do with this selection here at pick number 11?
I mean, you got to go defensive side of the ball here, and I think it's a take your pick with the players left. I think it all depends on who they have left to re-sign and what positions that they play, and obviously we don't know that. So they've really got to play to their strengths here, and maybe take a player in not one of their favorite positions. They're in a position possibly to steal a pick away from somebody lower down in the draft. Maybe a Noah Johns, flipping him to cornerback or something to take him away from St. Louis or something crazy like that. But, the ball's in their court.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think it's got to be a defensive player, but to your point, they might have 3 defensive players that they're waiting to still re-sign. So, Dan Mitchell, what are your thoughts about Las Vegas and where they might go here?
Yeah, Michael sort of hit it straight on the head. With the 7 people only currently signed, it's sort of hard to tell the exact position, but I agree. Defense is what they need unless, they magically gain 5 people without us looking. And but I'm thinking they need someone in the back end, I believe. Just they got 1 safety out there. It's really a coin flip, I think, at this point. Unless, like you said, Mike, they're just trying to mess with some people and steal something from a lower pick, have some fun.
Could be. So we still have 8 players left to be drafted. 4 are currently listed at max silver value, and the other 4 at max copper value. Only 1 player actually has a defensive showcase bonus. That's Terrell Davis, who's currently max copper minus 0.5, and then the showcase bonus would give him that 0.5 back. So even that showcase bonus really doesn't help put him ahead of anybody else per se. It just kind of evens out the playing field a little bit for him. So at least he was able to get that little bonus in there. So, as far as the players go, who has that list handy? I think, Rich, you had that handy about, best players available. Is there anybody in particular that has, a defensive position as, their either primary or secondary, preference that you think might be the pick that Las Vegas might be looking for?
Well, if they're looking for a Max Silver and a player that has a defensive position as their primary, Kyrie Hasen is listed. His secondary was listed as an inside linebacker. So, he's there. But then after that, you drop all the way down to, I think, Joshua Doohan, the Max Copper. He's got secondary listed as a linebacker as well. So I think that's On the defensive side of the ball, that's your best two available right now, without switching somebody's position from what they played in or what they picked.
Yeah, and obviously, I'm sure teams want to try to give players their preferred position. I mean, that's what they're hoping to be able to play. But obviously, there's team needs. Liam, I'll kick it back over to you as the owner of a team. Maybe you can talk a little bit about that and how that all plays into your decision making. Is their preferred position really something that you focus on, or do you really need to focus more on your team needs?
I would probably say, especially in this type of draft, I would say a particular position. I mean, like you're looking at, I suppose it's a balance of the two. Like you see with Tulsa, they picked a tight end. They would know that they wanted a tight end. They're not making these decisions on the fly. Like, oh, we're gonna pick someone dependent on who's available, because of course you have the flexibility. I want this particular person to fit here or whatever. For us especially, like, we wanted an outside linebacker. We had someone who wanted to be outside linebacker. We were never going to pick anything other than outside linebacker. So
Gotcha.
We'll see who Las Vegas pick. But yeah, there's a lot of different elements that come into it. But...
All right. So the pick is in for Las Vegas. Cameron Irvine to announce the selection.
With the 11th pick in the SFL Season 13 Rookie Draft, the Las Vegas Fury have selected free safety Jonathan Taylor Sconsing. Congratulations, Jonathan and Vegas.
Jonathan Taylor Sconsing with the longest name in the draft so far.
I had to shrink the font.
Yeah, okay, well, I was just gonna say, I'm not sure how that's applicable, but there you go. He had to shrink the font for it to fit, which is probably why that timer was at 0 for so long. So the selection has been made. So played wide receiver in the rookie showcase, but will now play free safety for Las Vegas. Michael, we talked about how this really has to be defense. No surprise there, but they do already have one safety under contract. Now with this draft pick, they'll have two. What is your reaction to Jonathan Taylor Sconsing, and are you looking forward to saying that name over and over and over?
I'm not sure. I'm gonna have to practice that one. It's not, who was it? Nontomaterix from a couple of seasons ago.
Jaquarinarius Nontomaterix. Yeah,
that was a little
fun.
bit of a nightmare. But no, I really like this pick, and I think it's going to be a good fit to partner with Max Jackson at the back end of the Las Vegas defense. This is a team that made a playoff run last year and somehow pulled it together against all the odds the last 2 days of the season. But they're going to be looking to make a deeper playoff run this year, and I think this is a good pick to help get them there.
Queen City Corsairs now on the clock, hailing from Western New York, not to be confused with Charlotte, North Carolina, who also goes by the name Queen City, but not that Queen City. We're talking about Buffalo, New York. Queen City Corsairs on the clock. And taking a look at them, they have their quarterback. They have a halfback, a couple of receivers, defensive end, linebacker, corner. No safeties, though, and a safety was just taken off the board. Dan, do you think maybe they might have had their eye on Taylor Sconsing as well at the safety spot? Do you think they might be going a different direction at safety, or are they going to go something totally different and make us all look foolish?
Well, personally, right before that happened, I was thinking Taylor Sconsing for Queen City, but egg on my face before it even happens. But if they want to go around, they still have 3 people they have to sign after the draft, so they could throw us in a loop if we don't want an egg on our face, or we do. I don't know at this point.
I don't know either. I think Liam just wants to jump out the window and he's just looking for an excuse, so we're trying not to give him that, but
just trying to find Dan's face amongst all that egg. There's so much egg flat on his face.
Let me go grab some more just for you, Liam, but
I've got some here. I'll come over and give.
Just a little bit of a fly. West Coast, England. Ain't that far.
Yeah, that's a bit of a hike. Poor Liam. He's already into Sunday. You're at what time right now, Dan? Was it 4:30 in the afternoon where you are?
5:30.
Well, forgive me, 5:30. I'm surprised you're not in bed.
For you, this could go
Oh,
on
yeah.
for the next like 5 hours. Knowing Atlanta, we could be waiting here all evening.
Oh.
Liam's already getting ready for his morning tea. Dinner yet? You know,
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So a couple chat shout outs. Tom Ramen 11 with 1,200 bits. Jeff Malinishin with 1,200. And, I got to thinking about it. I haven't been paying attention to people cheering bits at all. So if I missed you, I apologize. I blame Liam. Not sure why. I just do. So Queen City on the clock. Rich Pratchard, what do you think? They only have 2 receivers. And, gosh, looking back through the draft, we haven't had any selected yet. Are you surprised, first off, that we haven't had a receiver in the first 11 picks? And do you think we're going to see one at all? And if so, is it soon?
I'm surprised we have not seen any, but Queen City, again, they've got some players to sign yet, so
That's true.
not sure where they're going to go, but I would not be surprised to see a wide receiver go. We've only got one Max Silver player left, and that's Noah Johns, and I know St. Louis is hoping he falls down, so they can pick him up at quarterback. But you've still got Diesel Dawson. He's a Max Silver minus 2.5, because they're not, I'm sure Queen City's not going to take him at halfback, so he doesn't get that bonus. But I still expect them. I would be surprised if they didn't go wide receiver, but I haven't been right tonight yet. So,
and just looking a little bit further down in the draft too. We have a couple more picks until Alaska is on the clock. Alaska has a hole at halfback right now, and there is that halfback Diesel Dawson who has that showcase bonus, but he's also Max Silver minus 2.5 to start, so that kind of throws everything off too. And I keep seeing these colors here, and it's Alaska. I've got to change this. I'm just gonna have to. Let's see if I can get this. I'll hold this Mexico City helmet here the whole rest of the night. That's better. It's not awkward at all. We got to represent Mexico City a little. They're not picking tonight as the roster's full, so let's go Mexico City. I also see one of my several sons, Jeffrey Daggs, is in the chat, and it looks like he's trying to throw some shade at us. Not too excited about that, but we'll deal with that once this draft is over. So with that, it looks like the pick is in for the Queen City Corsairs, so we'll see which way they go here in the draft and which of these remaining players is no longer available to us. So with that, Cameron Irvine, announce that pick.
With the 12th pick in the SFL Season 13 Rookie Draft, the Queen City Corsairs have selected defensive end Kyrie Hasen. Congratulations, Kyrie and Queen City.
All right, Kyrie Hasen selected as a defensive end for the Queen City Corsairs, and that will now give them 2 defensive ends on their roster. Michael Chirillo, we've called plenty of Alaska and Tallahassee games between the two of us and seen that defensive line just absolutely wreaking havoc on opponents' offenses. Do you think this pick may have been a reaction to, what do you want to say, showing appreciation to other teams by trying to replicate what they're doing, same sort of lineup? Do you see this defensive line being a more thing now than maybe in the past?
Well, I think the league has sort of been trending that way for the past couple of seasons. Yes, Tallahassee and Alaska were certainly the first to implement it to great effect, but we've seen a couple of teams in the last few seasons rely on stout defenses. Oklahoma City comes to mind, and Carolina, not last season, but the season before, had a very good defense. So it doesn't surprise me at all that they're picking up a second defensive end. It just clogs the middle, makes it harder for teams to use the run game against them, and makes the game a little bit low scoring. So I like this pick.
All right. And see, Dan, I don't think we've heard from you in a little while. So if you'd like to, why don't you go ahead and give us your thoughts on Queen City's selection, Kyrie Hasen, now off the...
In a pure just numbers game, in what he was a great pick, as Kyrie Hasten was a max silver they could pick and put him on defensive end, which was a possible position for him. That was, I think, Queen City's best bet at number 12 in the draft. They were looking for something to beef up their front end of defense and really stop anyone coming at the run game, as was just said. So other than that, I mean, the silver players they have left weren't much of an option, I think, for them, as they were both offensive, and they were trying to grab that last bet of silver, I think, left with it. Just coppers after we have 2 more silvers. That's purely a numbers game, though, so no idea what they were doing up in their office.
Steven Hacker with 1,200 bits, wide receiver for the Queen City Corsairs, welcoming the new rookie to his team. Sioux Falls Sparrows now on the clock, and Liam, I'm going to kick it back over to you, but not even necessarily just for Sioux Falls. I'm looking at Sioux Falls and Alaska here, as they both have picks before St. Louis goes back on the clock. And I can't help but notice Noah Johns, the max silver 1.5 point bonus for quarterback, if he is still available to St. Louis 3 picks from now. So does that, as a team owner and team decision maker, I really should say, does that sort of thing come into effect when you're looking at the draft and you have your team on the clock? Would you look at that list and say, you know what, St. Louis is probably looking at that Noah Johns guy. That's somebody that we could use, not necessarily a quarterback, but we could use him at another position, and it would prevent St. Louis from getting a player that they could actually make more use out of? Do you try to manipulate and maybe steal a player from a team like that, or does that not really play into it?
I don't think it factors into people's thinking like it maybe would in a professional football league like the NFL. I think with the SFL, people will tend to focus on their builds first, and then harming other teams doesn't necessarily come into play. At St. Louis, it's actually kind of worked out. Maybe they could have played a blinder in terms of they picked a guy that not many people expected with the first pick. And then they let their guy that they wanted at quarterback slide the whole way down. But with the way draft picks can be quite flexible, it may come back that they end up not getting him. We'll see what happens. It's developing situation at the moment. So.
All right, and Sioux Falls pick is in. They have a split roster right now, it looks like, of players on offense and defense, and looking to fill up their roster here tonight with this selection.
And just one more big thank you to you guys who have been on this part of this analysis crew. Y'all been doing an excellent job, and it's been fun listening to you guys all night while I furiously crank out graphics in real time, which, trust me, is not the easiest thing in the world, but is totally worth it for these great SFL newcomers that I hope have very long careers here. With the 13th pick in the SFL's Season 13 Rookie Draft, the Sioux Falls Sparrows select cornerback Terrell Davis. Congratulations, Terrell and Sioux Falls.
All right, and there is the pick. Terrell Davis, the final defensive player on our list that still had a showcase bonus, and he is the selection for Sioux Falls, and really kind of stacks their defense right now, because now they'll have a pair of corners, a pair of safeties, it looks like 3 linebackers on their defense, but a kind of gaping hole maybe still at defensive line. Rich Prashard, what do you think about this selection of cornerback Terrell Davis, and what are your thoughts about their defensive line situation, or is it a situation?
I honestly would have thought they'd go defensive line, but depending on what their game plan is and what they're building around, they could utilize some of those linebackers as some defensive line type players. So it's not a bad pick. They just got to be able to game plan with that, and I think it probably fits into what they're trying to do well.
And Michael Chirillo, the Alaska Storm, are on the clock. They're missing that halfback. Do you think this is where we'll see the next halfback get taken? We haven't seen one. Well, I say the next halfback. We haven't seen one yet. Literally, no. Actually, excuse me. No, Pseudo Nakai for Vancouver was the first running back taken with the 9th pick. Do you think we'll see another running back here to fill in that hole, or do you think Alaska might throw us all off and go kicker like Dwayne Schindler was suggesting earlier on? And I couldn't even mention that because my goodness, but maybe they do. What do you think?
I think they got to go running back here. This will be their final pick to solidify their roster. All 11 other players have been signed, and they've still got that gaping hole at the running back position. And for the second time tonight, I'm going to predict that Diesel Dawson is going to be the newest player to don the sky blue and red.
You mean this sky blue here?
Yeah, that one.
What have I done? How could I not wear Mexico City colors? Or I should say I really should have worn like league neutral colors. Like I should have just done black and gold or something. Just kind of make it a little bit more like the SFL Shield. Oh well. Go Alaska. Here we go. So I'm still kind of surprised, like we talked about earlier, that there has been there's no teams that are drafting tonight that have kickers or punters on their roster, and Alaska had a kicker all last season. In fact, they had 2, Disco Fudd being their kicker last season, and really kind of clinching a lot of games for them and making sure that they were always ahead. And Liam, remind me, do you have a kicker on? No, you don't have a kicker right now, but you guys have had
Too soon.
Yeah, you've had star kickers quite a bit. Is there less of a value maybe on kickers than people thought about in the past, and you need to fill in some more key positions, or what do you think?
I think if Alaska don't go with a kicker, I think that would be very out of character for Mighty. So if there is going to be a kicker drafted in this draft, I think it will be here. One of the things I wanted to come back on, which Michael was talking about, was the kind of proliferation of defensive linemen. I don't necessarily know if that's as much of a case. Tallahassee were the big kind of proponent of having your star D line, and it's kind of fallen out of favour now. It's not necessarily as heavily favoured as it used to be. And indeed, with that Sioux Falls, they've left themselves really exposed on the defensive line. And I do worry that if they coming up against teams, I mean, I don't want to blow our trumpet in London, but we got a really great running back. You've got players like Ray Bentley, McChesney in Denver, who could run over that D-line. You need at least one person, even if it's just a D tackle, to be able to solidify that front line. So it's an interesting pick from Sioux Falls. If we're going to see the kicker drafted, it will be here. Mighty has history with it, so we'll see.
Well, the pick is in, so the wait is over. We will see who the Alaska Storm have selected as the final player on their roster. This will be player number 12, so this is it. Do they fill in a halfback, or do they go kicker? Cameron Irvine, let us know.
Lots of smart people on this panel. Everyone's starting to get a little better as the night goes along. But let's see exactly what I mean. With the 14th pick of the SFL Season 13 Rookie Draft, the 3-time champion Alaska Storm, I have to say it, select kicker Diesel Dawson. Congratulations, Diesel and the Storm.
All right, so there we go. The kicker has been selected. Wow, I mean, congratulations, Diesel Dawson, for becoming the replacement to Disco Fudd, who was quite the kicker for Alaska last season. I would have been surprised to see Alaska go without a kicker, but Rich, I'll kick it back over to you. Are you surprised to see Alaska go without a halfback?
Yeah, actually, I am. But they do have a fullback, and I'm sure that they'll utilize that fullback. And they also have Ron Cochran that can throw the ball anywhere he wants to at any time. So, I think they think pass first anyway in Alaska. So with that fullback, and I'm sure they'll utilize that fullback quite a bit, and in good situations. But having a kicker does not surprise me.
Michael, how many games did you end up calling for Alaska last season?
3.
Was it 3? So,
Yeah.
I mean, to Rich's point, Ron Cochran throws it all over the field with the best of them. Quite frankly, could very well be the best of them. But I mean, calling several Alaska games myself, I mean, one of the things I noticed, and I'm sure you noticed, was that two-headed running attack, with Williams and other names. Totally slipping my memory right now, but I'm sure you can probably help me out there. But it was that two-headed attack there that really, I mean, it was just nonstop. You hand it off to one back or the other back, and back and forth it would go, and then suddenly they'd throw it over the top to Optimus Klein and in the end zone for a touchdown. But it's going to be a whole different look, I think. It may be just a lot more pass heavy than it even was. Are you surprised to see them not have that two-headed attack anymore?
I mean, a little bit. It is a strategy that has gotten them 2 of their 3 championships. But as Dwayne Schindler pointed out in the chat, as I was looking at it a little bit before the pick got in, Alaska has run without a star running back before, and it's worked out pretty well for them. And also, their fullback they just got in is J.W. Doyle, who was a top pick in last season's draft for Oklahoma City and ran very well there. So he's got running back speed. So I think that they really didn't need a halfback looking back on it. And well, Liam, we were both half right. I got the player, you got the position.
So why don't we toss it right back over to Liam at this point? So St. Louis back on the clock now, and look at that, Noah Johns still there on the list. Now, I thought there was a chance he might end up being the first pick in the draft, and now we're at pick number 15. He's still there. Am I insane to be thinking that, or do you think this could be the pick? He's the last Max Silver player even left.
Yeah, well, I mean, St. Louis have played it really well. They clearly did their work on this draft and anticipated that maybe the interest in that particular player was maybe something which they could take a ride on and say, we're going to let him play and then reach mighty in Alaska, and he'll go with the kicker as we always expected he would. To focus on Alaska's pick, though, I'm not surprised at all that this is what they've decided to do. Mighty, we all know him as one of the best defensive coordinator and head coach in the league. But he's also an offensive innovator. So when last season he came out and he got the running back and he got the fullback, that was a real mind-blowing thing for a lot of people in the league, because we saw just how effective he was with the fullback on its own. And he's gone away from the running back now. That will change how people strategize, because of course having the fullback as the primary runner takes a lot of the outside running out of things, but it also, you retain the screen passes that you would use if you have the halfback anyway. Maybe he didn't sense he was getting the utility out of the running back. Let's see if St. Louis have picked their guy. If they have done, I think it would be a great result for them.
All right, so the pick is in for St. Louis, and a lot of people commenting so far that looks like they might be the team with the best draft so far, as things may have fallen exactly the way they wanted. Maurer Rivers, the first selection by St. Louis. For their second selection, Cameron Irvine back to the podium to announce the pick.
I feel like at almost every pick tonight, Liam is speaking when I'm ready. Like, it could happen with 2.5 minutes to go or with 0 to go. It just always seems to fall Liam's direction. It's just
I have a lot of opinions, Cam. you should know this by now.
It's not that you're talking the most. It's just right at that. Anyway, very funny. Very funny. Hopefully everyone at home is as entertained as I am by this draft tonight. With the 15th pick in the Season 13 SFL Rookie Draft, the St. Louis Gladiators select quarterback Noah Johns. Congratulations, Noah, and the Gladiators.
All right, and how about that? That's I think the best that this draft could have possibly gone for St. Louis. And Dan, you've been quiet for a little bit because Liam's taking up all of our airtime. But Noah Johns still there at pick 15. Max Silver with a 1.5 bonus, arguably one of the best players in this draft. Now the second quarterback selected tonight, but going to a team in St. Louis where maybe he can be that guy that Liam was talking about earlier, that can be the quarterback to give St. Louis consistency and be there for a long time and help turn this franchise around. They have their quarterback on defense in Maurer Rivers that they picked with selection number 1. Now the quarterback of the offense of the team, Noah Johns, with pick 15. Dan, your reaction?
I think St. Louis played a beautiful long game in this draft. They secured someone I think they wouldn't have gotten if they didn't pick him first. They said, we want Rivers, we're going to get him, and we're just going to either wiggle our way or pray to something that we're going to get Noah Johns at the end. And, they did it. They played this long game while the other quarterback went over to Carolina with Sully Richardson. I think that was beautiful, my bad, by St. Louis. I think they're going to do a great job with him, and I'm really hoping they can turn around and become a better team altogether with a huge bonus for their great rookie quarterback.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Very well played, St. Louis, and looking forward to seeing what your franchise can do. Rich Pratchard, sure you're going to be announcing a St. Louis game or two this upcoming season. How are you looking forward to? I mean, what's your excitement level about calling a St. Louis game now that they have these 2 draft picks that really, if they had picks 1 and 2, they might have taken the same people?
Yeah, I agree. I think St. Louis was looking for some pieces to fall into place. They're one of those teams that they're down lower in the standings, but they're kind of on the edge. They compete, but putting a number 1, I mean, basically they get 2 number 1 picks. Both of these guys are number 1 pick capable. So they've got a number 1 pick at defensive end, and they've got a number 1 pick at quarterback. So that should solidify that team and boost their abilities real quick.
Is anyone else getting nervous that Liam's adjusting the window?
I want the draft.
Getting warm in here,
okay. I'm just making sure that was it. I mean, the draft's coming to an end. I didn't know if this would be our epic finale was Liam taking the swan dive. I don't want that to happen. I'm nervous now.
I'm sweating right. I'm sweating because you're setting me up to speak now. And I know as soon as I do that,
I'm just waiting until I see that pick coming in, and then I'll throw it your way. Yeah, absolutely.
And then he's gonna have a go at me again, like, Liam, why do you speak when I'm about to announce the pick?
It's all you. It has nothing to do with the host and the fact that I keep doing it on purpose and sending it to you just to make him mad at you. So. Michael Chirillo, you'll also be calling some St. Louis games as well as some Oklahoma City games, based on not even just those 2 teams, the whole draft so far. Is there any team that has made a pick so far that you are the most excited about calling one of those games so that you can see that new rookie in action? Is there one favorite that you have, or a handful, or are they all kind of the same?
I mean, coming into the night, it was Noah Johns, and if you remember back to the schedule release show, which you and I did together, Dags, I mentioned as one of my bold predictions that St. Louis was going to be a playoff team.
You did.
And I think these 2 picks that they've got tonight go a long way towards making that a reality for the green and gold. I mean, also, I'm looking forward to calling Pseudo Nakai, running back for Vancouver. Vancouver's kind of been on the edge for the last couple of seasons, and maybe the team from British Columbia can make another return to the playoffs this season.
All right, so Oklahoma City on the clock. Their first selection was fullback DJ Moses II. Max Silver value there. Now they have a quarterback, halfback, fullback, wide receivers. They have a couple of them. They have a tight end. Of course, they have a tight end, Tiberius Bovine. Everybody's heard of him, and if you haven't, shame on you. Only 5 players on their defense. Liam, what are your thoughts? I'm just kidding. The pick is in. I'm not going to do that to you, buddy. we don't want to know your thoughts anyway. Turning it back, I'm kidding about that as well. Only half. The pick is in. Cameron Irvine back to the podium to announce Oklahoma City's second selection of the night.
Yeah, well, actually, Mike, I
Cam, you're muted again.
he did it for that particular purpose. So
Cam, we still can't
Still
hear you.
muted.
At least I can't hear you, buddy. I don't know where your audio went. There will apparently
he's gone.
The commission's left the building. So hey, Liam, while we have time, what do you think Oklahoma City here do with this selection with the players they have on offense and defense? You know, they're drafting 2 players tonight to fill out this roster. They've already selected one on offense. Is this one going to be defense? What do you think?
yeah, well, they're gonna pick someone.
Yes.
Which is more than Atlanta can say, of course. So, yeah. I think
Wow.
I'm sorry, Atlanta. I think it will be a defensive player. I anticipate. I think they're still looking for that defensive lineman. My personal opinion is, if you have to have any defensive lineman, if you're going to just have one, you have the defensive tackle. My player, William Davidson, is defensive tackle. The inside running gap is so potent with players like Ray Benton that if you don't have not only a good linebackers, if you have good linebackers, that's one thing, but you have to have someone actually on the defensive line to actually provide a bit upfront pressure. So we'll see who I face.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, they definitely will fill out that defensive side as well. You know, the offense already pretty well full, especially with the addition of a fullback. You know, like I was saying earlier, trying to maybe mimic what Alaska was doing, and now Alaska's saying, well, fooled you. I'm not even doing that this season. So, but they have the halfback, they have the fullback, they have a pair of wide receivers. Tiberius Bovine really leading the way for all tight ends in the league, and showing the way that it should be done. And so that defense the offense pretty well set. But yeah, the defensive line did not have anybody on it. I know that's one thing that we're kind of switching around a little bit on Mexico City this season, with adding a little bit to the defensive line. Otherwise you get gashed in the run game just a little bit too much. So still working out some of the technical issues here at league headquarters. Please bear with us as we try to figure out why the podium is dead. So otherwise we might just have to make these selections different ways. I see you, Cam. I can see you.
What is happening here?
I even see
Still
audio
can't hear you.
Nope.
What do you mean? Oh, well, that's y'all's problem.
It's painful because
No,
don't
going
go out the
on
window,
air.
Liam.
I'm on the air right now.
No.
Cam,
No.
you're gonna have to get like a whiteboard and just write it down and hold it up.
They can hear us. You can't, because Discord continues to be terrible.
Like I can't. Yeah.
Hush!
Yeah.
Hush! Silence!
Jeremy Vegas suggested
Silence,
that we
you
use the time
minion!
machine to go back in time when Cam was not having audio. But
Hey,
that would also throw off the whole
everybody
draft,
in the
as
chat
players
room
that
is
have been
laughing at
selected
you.
will now be unselected.
I love it. I love it. This is awesome. This is one of the
I'm not
best moments
sure,
of the draft. Hope somebody's
I don't
in the
know
chat.
If Cam's
Let's
just
see if they
having
can figure it out.
a
Let's just take a second
spaz
to see if they can
attack
figure it
now,
out.
or he's kind of flailing.
They can't. Everyone
All right,
else
well,
can.
Jeremy Vegas says that he can hear.
Let's
so
see
maybe-
when they figure it out. Let's look at
Maybe
it.
we're talking over
Watch
each other.
their
Yeah. All right.
faces.
So it sounds like the everybody can hear Cam, but the panel. So I'll shut up now so that Cam can do his thing.
Y'all done? All right. With the 16th pick in the SFL's 13th rookie draft, the Oklahoma City Renegades select cornerback Joshua Dewar. Congratulations, Joshua, and Oklahoma City, and sorry for the delay.
All right. So with that, Joshua Dewar is the selection for Oklahoma City at cornerback, and that'll give them 2 corners on their roster now and puts the San Francisco Sharks back on the clock. So not sure why we can't hear Cam, but as long as everybody else can, that's good enough for me, I guess. So let's see, Michael Cirillo, I'll pop it back over your way. The selection of Joshua Dewar, Max Copper. Yeah, just about everybody that's left, actually, I think everybody that was left is all the same level Max Copper value. So, one player not necessarily the same as the next in the team's eyes as they look at the chat ranking and other attributes. But, what are your thoughts on Joshua Dewar versus maybe the other people left? And what about the selection of a corner for the Renegades?
Now you're muted.
Now I'm muted. Goodness, what's happening?
All right. Well, no, I hear him. Okay, all right.
Well,
We're doing good. We're doing fantastic. And now we're all gone. I mean, we're not even on the show. So, technical snafus. Oh, we're back.
Oh, we're back now.
That's good because I missed Liam already. I thought maybe
Okay.
the video's gone. So, all right,
Well,
we have audio.
Back
we have video.
to seriousness.
Stop
here.
hacking me!
When all the players who are left have the exact same value and no bonuses to hand out, it's going to be who fits best with your team for a personal standpoint, I think. Because all of the players go through a process where they talk to the teams that they're interested in. They get to know the other players on the team through the chat rankings and everything. At this point, it's pretty much preference either way as to who you want to draft. And if Joshua Dewar fits in well with the rest of the Oklahoma City lineup and is a good fit to anchor the back of the defense with Ashley Rose Finch, who am I to judge?
Yeah, I agree. Dan Mitchell, let's see if we can hear you. What are your thoughts on Oklahoma City and San Francisco coming up on the clock?
Yeah, I hope you can hear me. But
I can, yes.
Okay, good. Oklahoma City, I mean, it really rounds out. They had a stacked offense right now. They had quarterback, halfback, fullback, 2 receivers, and a tight end. So, they had no need unless they were going crazy. And no one else besides Alaska has picked any special team. So I think cornerback just really balanced out. They had one already, so they're getting the second one, making it just an easy, well-rounded defense so they can take a little bit of runs with their defensive tackle, and they got plenty in the back coming in for any passes. So I think that was a good decision by Oklahoma City, just stopping any far pass game and rounding out what they need.
So San Francisco back on the clock now, and drafted cornerback Sim Franco Jr., the Max Silver player earlier on in this draft. Now back on the clock here, 10 picks later at pick 17. And let's see, who else do they have on their roster, Liam? So they have their quarterback, pair of receivers, no tight end. That's for shame. But they've already addressed their defensive line. They have a linebacker. They have 2 corners now and a pair of safeties. Do you think maybe that whole for shame comment I just made might go away? Do you think they might select a tight end here, or do they might go a different direction?
Possibly. They're still looking for some sort of running player, though. I mean, if you've not got any sort of running game whatsoever, then you're kind of dead in the water. I mean, we tried in London a few seasons back with just having receivers, and there were few interceptions, to say the least. So, just giving myself a nightmare, like a living nightmare, just thinking about it again. So, I think they gotta go with some sort of running game, even if it's a Copper running back or a fullback. You can build them up. Copper progression has improved substantially from when it was originally introduced, and it's now a viable option for developing players. My personal perception is I probably want all my guys to be bronze because I like having the ability to get animations out of the game. But I think San Francisco, they could go for just passing, but I think they're going to be very one-dimensional if they do that. Maybe the absolute joke, a wild card in here is they go for a kicker or a punter. We'll see what happens.
Well, we haven't seen any punters taken, but I think you might be right about them needing a running game. But if they don't pick one here, that might be even a bigger surprise than St. Louis selecting a defensive end instead of quarterback with the first pick. But we will find out now. Not sure if we'll hear Cam, but as long as everybody else does, that's all that matters. So without further ado, Cameron Irvine back to the podium to announce San Francisco's selection.
With the 17th pick in the SFL Rookie Draft, the San Francisco Sharks have selected defensive end Chris Leone. Atlanta has the draft's final pick. They are on the clock next.
And there is the pick, defensive end Chris Leone is the selection. So Rich Pratchard, no running game for the San Francisco Sharks. Are you shocked?
I'm shocked, but we still have to remember they've got one player left to sign. So they've got one person still in their pocket. If I'm reading the notes correctly, they have an older player to re-sign. So
yeah, you're right. Yep.
So they may have a halfback sitting out there or a fullback sitting out there. I would be surprised. I would be shocked if they went into the season without some sort of a contract running presence.
Yeah, that's a fantastic point. Is the owner player still having to be signed? I was skipping right past that and went down to the fact that they were drafting 2 players tonight. So that's more than likely what they're going to do. But Dan Mitchell, your thoughts on Chris Leone, and it kind of makes the selection for Atlanta a little bit less of a surprise. But since we can't hear Cam anymore anyway, I guess it's probably good that we might know who's coming up. But your thoughts on Chris Leone to San Francisco and adding a defensive lineman to a group that already had a pair of defensive linemen?
Yeah, as long as they have someone lined up that is the run game, it's not the worst decision in the world. I think they're stacking their line a bit. That's my own personal opinion, but maybe they thought that if they use that, they can better go against another team. Maybe they have someone specifically in mind, when they were trying to build this defense. They have the 2 safeties and a quarterback, 2 line. I mean, it's an interesting build to say the least. I mean, excited to see what they do with it, and if they do have some crazy workaround none of us have seen yet, that'd be interesting to see. And now all left is Atlanta.
So Atlanta back on the clock. They originally had the 6th pick in the draft, and that pick was skipped, and they moved down to the bottom. Liam, with Atlanta back on the clock, you're throwing some shade their way earlier, saying, at least Oklahoma City will draft someone, unlike Atlanta. Do you think they'll make their pick here now, or do they forfeit again? And if they do, what happens then?
In all fairness, they posted out a tweet earlier saying that they're ready to draft, that they're pick number 6. They didn't pick anybody. So I may be an idiot, and it may be 10 past 2 o'clock in the morning. Even we picked someone. We're supposed to be asleep. So this could be anybody.
Let's
could literally be. In all seriousness, and I get on very well with Mark. We met at a convention. I don't really know what's happened here. They've missed out on some potentially good players. So unless something is happening in the intervening time, I think the league rules are quite clear on what happens if. I mean, we've seen in the past where the clock's gone down to 0 and the pick has been in. Mm-hmm. It's just been the league processing it, which is fair enough. It gives the team who are next a little bit of extra time to maybe think about their options whilst they're waiting for the pick to be announced. But there's going to be some questions, I think, asked in Atlanta, because certainly the reaction of people in chat was one of shock. And Atlanta's a great team. They got a lot of great history. They've been in the playoffs or a playoff team. It's going to be disappointing for them to have gone in. They really embarrass themselves, and I think it's unfortunately something which has happened here. You don't like to see it. Maybe I'm a party of one with that. Maybe other people feel the same way, but certainly that's my perception of it. So.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see as information trickles out to see what might have happened there. But Michael Trujillo, 1 minute left on the clock. One player really left available here. Miles Jackson still sitting there, waiting to be selected. Looks like, unless some sort of strange circumstance happens, Miles Jackson should be the selection for Atlanta. But that being said, what position do you think is the one where that player might fall into?
Well, the two positions that he requested to be played were defensive end and defensive tackle, and they do have an opening at defensive end. They already have one defensive tackle on the lineup, so I can see them going with a second defensive lineman. But on the offensive side of the ball, they could pick up a third wide receiver. It's always a possibility, or there's a hole at cornerback. So there's a bunch of places that he could go, but more likely he's going to go on the defensive line.
So, Rich, no wide receivers drafted to this point, and there was plenty of players that had wide receiver showcase bonuses. As a wide receiver yourself, how surprised are you? Even a kicker was taken, Rich. Even a kicker.
I'm shocked. I'm still holding out hope there that they pick a wide receiver here at the end of the draft. But yeah,
pick somebody, anybody, please.
just make it.
The clock is zero again.
But if you look down the list at the teams, everybody had two wide receivers already.
Mm-hmm.
Most of the players were set at wide receiver already. There wasn't a lot of turnover in the league this year on wide receiver, or tight end for that matter, since we let those guys play. I think Atlanta could go with that third wide receiver, but I think Turilla's right. I think they're going to go on the line, defensive end, defensive tackle.
And Dan, I think we haven't brought it around to you yet. For the second time tonight, Atlanta on the clock showing 0. What do you think might be going on with Atlanta? Any idea?
My only guess is some disconnect. That's the only thing I can see. Some miscommunication. People couldn't get something out in time, and now we have Cam up here.
And here's Cam back to the podium, and I don't know if we'll be able to find out what he's saying, but everybody else will. So here we go.
Atlanta has forfeited their pick in the draft, and that concludes the SFL draft. There will be no other picks tonight. And what a night it was for everyone who was drafted. We appreciate you all for being here, and I will try to alert my team, or maybe you all can do so in the chat room for whatever reason we got disconnected there in the later stages of the draft. But for all that was here for the SFL draft, thank you for being here, and I'll turn it back over to the panel for final analysis of this wild and wacky draft here tonight. Make an impact. And congrats again to all the rookies selected.
All right, so Atlanta opting to not make a selection is what I am hearing in the draft and Discord. So with that, that'll bring the Season 13 SFL Rookie Draft to a close. Let's run through the panel one final time. Michael Trujillo, final thoughts.
Well, it's been a very interesting evening, to say the least. A lot of players going in not the positions they thought they were, and not the order that we thought was going to happen. And I do feel bad a little bit for Miles Jackson. He was the last player up there and didn't end up getting picked by Atlanta. So I'm sure he will find himself a team in the near future, and he has himself an SFL future. But thanks to the rest of the panel, and thanks to you, Mike Daggs, for having me along again.
Yeah, absolutely. Welcome you back next season's draft as well. And Miles Jackson, keep your head up. There will be a team that picks you and signs you, and that team is going to be one that's going to be happy that whatever snafu did take place, and that you're still there, and now they're going to be able to pick you up even though they weren't able to draft you ahead of time. So that's going to probably throw off some plans that they may have already had now that you're still available. So you'll get your shot, and it'll be on a team that is looking forward to having you there. Rich Pratchard, final thoughts on the draft?
St. Louis wins the draft, in my opinion. Two number one picks, basically. Surprised that there weren't any wide receivers picked. I really am surprised about that, and it was a really defensive laden draft, which just kind of the way things are turning. But I appreciate you guys letting me come and hang out with you. It was a fun time.
10 defensive selections so far tonight. Well, so far it's over now. So 10 defensive selections, and I think we had 16 picks. So one of those is special teams, so only 5 on offense, 2 of which were quarterbacks. A pair of running backs, fullback, and a tight end. So, yeah, kind of crazy how it all played out. So, Dan Mitchell, just a question for you. Yes. Michael Cirillo and I both made bold predictions back during the schedule release show. I don't know if you were able to catch that or not, but just to recap for anybody who didn't, Cirillo predicted that St. Louis will go to the playoffs, and I predicted that Alaska might go 0-6. Which one of us is delusional, and which one of us actually might have a shot at that being correct? And remember, I invited you here.
Well, as much as I appreciate your invitation, Alaska just sort of has a history. I'm never going to think Mighty doesn't know what he's doing. Maybe they'll have a bad season for them, but I don't think 0-6 it's going to happen. But I really am excited for St. Louis this season. With their basically 2 number 1 picks, they played the long game. It was already said, but Rich called it. St. Louis won this draft. They played it like a fiddle, and I'm really excited to see what they do.
Absolutely. And to be clear, Alaska's not going 0-6. It's not a chance. I wore Alaska colors on purpose tonight to apologize to Alaska for even making that prediction. This was all planned. Absolutely was all planned. So thanks for joining us, Dan. So Liam, final thoughts from you. I'm sure you want to get to bed.
Yeah, no, I'm ready. It's 20 past 2, and it would have been earlier if it hadn't been for that. It's impossible to ignore that as an elephant in the room. There's going to be an inquiry, I'm sure, as to what exactly has gone on there, and I'm sure we're going to hear what will happen in the coming days. In general, the draft, it was a good draft. It was different from the previous drafts because teams were focusing more on their specific needs, positions, than kind of adapting to the players themselves. And that, I think, is due to the pool of rookie. There maybe wasn't necessarily as many as we've had before. The teams have been looking to get their re-signees in and done instead of having to resort to going to the draft. I know that's something that we wanted to do, and then once we exhausted our options in terms of free agents, we decided to go to the draft, and we got our guy. We got the person we want. And I think for a lot of teams, especially St. Louis, they're going to be happy. In particular for St. Louis, now is the time where they need to bring the game plan in together, and they need to start making progress towards the playoffs. And nobody wants them to do it more than me, having worked with Dwayne and Colin before. It's going to be an interesting season. It's always a exciting season in the SFL. I'm just hoping that not having a kicker is we're gonna be able to do it without the kicker, because otherwise Marty's gonna kick my bum. That's what he's gonna do. So.
All right, and just want to give a thank you to all 4 of you for hosting these drafts. The past 3 drafts has been a treat, and I've been glad to be able to do it. And it's always fun when we have panelists like yourself on that are able to give good insight and good commentary into what's going on in the league, and to have broadcasters and players who are also broadcasters, team owners who used to be a broadcaster part-time as well. It's a good full spectrum of analysis. Appreciate everybody being here. Congratulations to all of the teams and all of the rookies drafted. Always a surprise to be had during the SFL draft, from the first pick not being the quarterback we thought it would be, and then the 15th pick being the quarterback that we thought would be first. And at Atlanta, we don't know. And a kicker was picked by Alaska. Wait, that wasn't a surprise, but always something interesting, always fun. It's a pleasure to be here, and thank you, Cam. The graphics look fantastic. Wish we could have heard your voice at the end. I don't know what happened there. But from all of us here in the SFL, thank you for joining us for the Season 13 draft. The roster will lock in a couple weeks, and we will get games back underway in about a month. We're looking forward to seeing you at all of those games. Thank you very much, everybody, and have a great night.
Right.